few weeks ago, I was sitting outside, just on the grass, just letting my mind float and pondering different aspects of life. I was thinking about how the world is so vast, and for a world so vast, how so many people perceive it as limited. I even said it. I sat right there and I said to myself, for a world so vast, why is it so limited? I was holding and crumbling the fallen leaves in my hand. Then I stopped. I stared at these crumpled leaves in my hand, and I replied, there is so much more than just this. There's so much more than surface level. I can't accept this world's limitations. I brushed the leaves off of my hand, and then I started running my fingers through the blades of grass, thinking to myself, this is a solid. Making it a solid sets it into limitation. But like an iceberg, whose 1/9 of an iceberg is visible above surface level, there is so much more than what meets the eye. I broke off several blades, thought to myself, grass has a life source. It requires food and care, but how life is it? Taken from what it needs to survive, it can die. There is some sort of life source contained in it, but how alive is it? It has no visible mouth or ears. Can it call out when it feels pain? And if it does it do it in such a frequency that we cannot see it with our own eyes, nor hear it with our own ears? I watched the documentary a few months ago. It wasn't very long, but it was about how water has memory, and each droplet, it carries something you can only see under a microscope. It goes with the droplet everywhere it goes. After something comes in contact with it, it is added to the droplet. It's interesting, to say the least. Perhaps for now, a solid may have to remain a solid, but there's so much more to this world than what we can see with our naked eye. If we place limitations on everything, then in fact the possibilities are limitless. If water that doesn't eat and demands very little care, if that can carry microscopic memories, what is grass capable of? What of trees? Why is it that in the forest, branches of trees do not run into each other, but go beside each other, leaving room? You have two trees right next to each other and branches heading the same way. They will avoid each other to avoid running into each other. How is this possible? Do they have a way of communicating? But you have a tree whose branch you have to cut off because it's gonna run into the side of your house. The house is made out of wood, such as the trees, but the house is no longer connected to its roots. Could it be that the roots are part of the way that trees speak? Many water species speak using what is called sonar. Could there be a type of sonar that we can't hear, but perhaps vibrations that only the roots of the trees can pick up? If we say that trees have their own way of communication, then what is more to this world than what meets the eye? So many secrets are hidden within. Why set limitations? You only limit yourself and your ability of perception. Of course, this reminds me of when I brought back 2 trees to life. You know how scientists say that plants thrive under the care of somebody who genuinely loves them and who speaks to them. When I was 8 years old, my family moved to a house in the middle of the woods. As soon as I stepped out of the car, I saw this tree. It was love at first sight. I ran to the tree and I climbed the tree. It was at the very end of winter. Not all of the trees had regained their leaves, and that tree hadn't either. But I still loved that tree. I would spend endless hours up in it, just letting my imagination soar. Spring turned into summer. This tree still hadn't regained its leaves, and my mom didn't really like me up in the tree because she said the tree was dead, but I refused to believe it. And then, at the very end of fall, the tree started to get a few leaves. They're very tiny. And then my mom was like, well, maybe it's just the tree that buds leaves in the wintertime. And I don't think trees are supposed to do that. And I was very concerned that my tree was sick. But I still never left my tree's side. Spring came along, and the tree got its leaves. And the next year came along, and along with the leaves, the tree got a few flowers. The next year came. It came with bigger leaves and more flowers, and these flowers turned into apples. And the year after that, all the more flowers and all the more apples came with the tree. We ended up moving that fall, and I didn't see the tree again until a few years later. When I came back, after a couple of years, and to see the tree was completely dead. It was decaying and was falling over. It's also the Solomon Islands. Natives there screamed curses on the trees for 30 days, and the trees themselves would start to wither and die. That way they would not have to chop the trees down. There's so much more to this world than surface level. I will discover what I can, but I must refrain from setting this world within limitations, when the possibilities of this world are limitless, are endless. Who knows? Ice, it can be changed to a liquid when it has action. It leaves solid, and solid can change into a liquid. So solids can change too. Just try not to limit your ability of perception. It's the best advice I can give on that. And one final thought. If trees can live in harmony in a crowded forest, why can't humans? Can it be that trees could be more humane than a human being?